Okay, there we go.
Yom Rishon, right?
We're going to start with no, it's actually yesterday's. So you're not going to be able to use it until, Yom Rishon, right, yesterday's. So you start on Daf Kuf,
Yes.
and we're starting with Amar Abaya, or Abaya Amar. Abaya Amar Leikasha. We started this yesterday. Amen. So we had a contradiction in the opinion of Reb Shimon. If you're allowed to, if an Einan, someone that's in not just mourning, but it's before the body is buried. So he's an Einan, if he's allowed to bring a Korban Pesach that evening. So one opinion was no. One source was that he can't, and one source was yes. So how do we reconcile those two sources? So Abaye says like kasha, kanshmeis kodim chatzos, kanshmeis lacha chatzos. It depends when the person passed away. If he passed away on the 14th before noon, so then what came first? The obligation to bring the Pesach, or the obligation, or his command to follow the rules of Aninos, of an Einan? Aninos came first. So Aninos pushes off the Korban Pesach, but if it's after if he died after the noon time, so then the obligation of the Korban Pesach came first. So that's why he's going to bring the Korban Pesach. If he passed away before Chatzos Le'achsi, he was never fit to bring the Korban Pesach because the obligation, the commandments of Aninos was first. So Chayla ala Aninos, the Aninos fell on him, or was imposed on him. But after Chatzos, when he is able to do the Korban Pesach first, so like Chayla Aninos, the obligation of Pesach preceded the command of Aninos. How do we know that we make a difference between when the person passed away, when the laws of Aninos applied, if it's before Chatzos or after Chatzos? The Tanya, so we'll start in a brisa. Okay, it's going to take us a few minutes to get to the final proof. We have to go through a contradiction first and an answer, or two answers. Lo yitama. The pasuk says when a relative passes away to a kohen, he's obligated to become tameh. If it's a close relative, in mitzvah, it's a command. It's not just a permission, because a kohen's not allowed to become tameh, but it's actually a command. Lo yratza. Let's say he doesn't want to become tameh. They contaminate him. They make him tameh against his will, because it's a command. There's a story with Yosef HaKohen. I don't know who Yosef HaKohen is, but maybe it's Josephus. I don't know. That's a guess. His wife died on Erev Pesach. He doesn't want to become tameh. Why? He wants to bring the Korban Pesach. The Kohanim, they decided together, and they were metameh him against his will. So that means that a Kohen is obligated to become tameh. What it also means is that when he does become tameh, he can't bring the Korban Pesach. What would be if he didn't become tameh? It sounds like he would be allowed to bring the Korban Pesach, even though it was the day that his wife passed away. It's interesting. He can bring the Korban Pesach even though his wife passed away. Okay, let's see further. For a mini, it's a contradiction. This next verse that says to his sister, this is referring to a nazir. A nazir is not allowed to become tameh, even to a close relative. Why does it have to say to his sister he shouldn't become tameh? It already said to his father, his mother, and his brother. Of course not to his sister. Sister, there's a difference. Married, not married. But if he can't become contaminated to his father and his mother, for sure not his sister. What's it coming to teach us? It says like this. So you have a person that's on a mission. He's going to Shechtas Korban Pesach. Now, if he's going to Shechtas Korban Pesach, so he should not become Tamei. V'lamalas benai. And he needs to circumcise his son. Because if his son isn't circumcised, the son won't be able to eat from the Korban Pesach. V'shama shemeis lemeis. And he hears that a relative passed away. Yachol yitame. Maybe he should become Tamei. By the way, this is talking about also he's a Kohen Gadol. He's a Nazir and a Kohen Gadol. So he has all the reasons. He has like 3 reasons why he should not become Tamei.
How will learn this is Kohen Gadol?
That's what the reference of this is talking about. So Amrit lo yitame. We say no, he should not become Tamei. Now, what it means lo yitame means for any of these reasons. Yachol kshem shlo yitame la'achayse kachin metame lemes mitzvah. Maybe if he comes across a dead corpse, maybe he shouldn't bury it either, because he has reasons not to become Tamei. He's a Kohen Gadol, he's a Nazir, he's going to Shechtas Korban Pesach. To his sister he doesn't become Tamei, but he does become Tamei to a Meis Mitzvah. Meis Mitzvah means there's no one else to perform the funeral, the burial. So lav shma mina, is this not a proof? Kan kaidem chatzos, kan lacha chatzos. So if you think about this, we have in this brisa we're seeing that he does not become Tamei. Why? Because he's going to Shechtas Korban Pesach. That was one of the reasons. We said we have 3 reasons why he doesn't become Tamei. One is he's shechting his Korban Pesach. So he doesn't become Tamei because he's shechting his Korban Pesach. So the last brisa we said that there was this Kohen that he didn't want to become Tamei, and they forced him to become Tamei. So what we're seeing is that there must be a difference. In one case, we make him become Tamei. In one case, which means that he doesn't. The obligation to take care of the deceased precedes the Korban Pesach, and in one case, the Korban Pesach takes precedence over the mourning. So it must be that it depends when the person passed away. If he passed away before Chatzos, then the mourning takes precedence over the Korban Pesach. Passed away after Chatzos, then the obligation to bring the Korban Pesach came first. So that takes precedence over the mourning. How do you know that that's the answer? That that's the rationale between these two, the difference between the brises? Maybe really I can say to you, both of them are where the relative passed away after Chatzos. So why one does the mourning take precedence and the other one of the Korban Pesach takes precedence? Rabbi Yishmael or Rabbi Akiva. We have a machlekes Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva. This is familiar to us from the first page of Saita.
It should be like the Kabbalah that we learned with I have a couple Daf ago that's saying what's common and what's not common comes first.
Oh. When I think when we discuss common and uncommon, it's really when you're going to be able to do both. The question is, which one do you do first?
Right.
But if you're only going to be able to do one, then that rule doesn't apply, common and uncommon. What will apply is which one is more stronger. Not just, the commonality is when you have 2 options, talis and tefillin. Which one do I do first? They do the one that's more common first. Or sacrifices, which one do I bring first? But I'm going to do both. The question is which one is first. Here, the question is which one's going to push off the other one, entirely. So we say that maybe the difference is not when the person died, when the relative died before Chatzos or after Chatzos. Maybe the difference is difference of opinion. It's actually a machlekes. And it's a machlekes Rabbi Yishmael and Rabbi Akiva. The Tanya lo yitamer rishus to Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Yishmael says there is no mitzvah to become tamei to the close relative. It's only permission, because the kohen is not allowed to become tamei. Comes along the Torah and says if he wants, he can be. Oh, if he wants, he can be. That means, of course, that the Korban Pesach takes precedence.
Yeah, but mitzvah met, it's come before Pesach.
Mace mitzvah always comes before Pesach. We're talking about here the close relative, the aninos,
Okay.
or the tumah, really, actually. Rabbi Kiva Imer Chayva. Rabbi Kiva says no, it's an obligation. So the Gemara says no, you can't say that that's the difference. Leisal Kadaitach, don't think like this. Thank you. The Reisha Dahi Rabbi Akiva Ktanila. Actually, if you look at that brisa, if you look at the whole brisa that discusses that he should not become tamei, that's actually Rabbi Akiva himself that's saying it. The Tanya. It's taught in the brisa. We start with the brisa from the beginning now. Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Akiva says nefesh. The pasuk says all the days of his Nazirus, all the days of his that he's in a Nazir to Hashem, he should not become contaminated to a dead soul. He should not come to a dead soul. Now, when it says nefesh, elu akrevim, that's referring to he shouldn't even become contaminated to close relatives. Mace, it says nefesh mace, a dead soul, a dead body. Elu arachaikim. These are people that are not relatives, obviously, close relatives, not for sure not. But let's see why it has to say that. La'aviv, the pasuk goes on. The next pasuk says to his father, he shouldn't become contaminated. But he should become contaminated to a mace mitzvah. Le'imai, when it says, the pasuk goes on, it says that he should not become contaminated to his mother. We already said to his father, and to close relatives, he doesn't become tummy. Why does it have to add in this detail to his mother? It's coming to teach us hayakayin vu nazar. If you have two reasons why you shouldn't become tummy, so then for sure he doesn't become tummy. But I could have thought that maybe he shouldn't become tummy that even he shouldn't even become tummy to a mace mitzvah. He's a kayan and a nazir. To his mother, he doesn't become tummy. A mace mitzvah is coming to teach me that a mace mitzvah, someone that has no one to take care of the burial, he does become tummy. La'achiv, to his brother. Now you're getting. We already know that he doesn't become tummy to the relatives, to his father, his mother. He doesn't. Why does he have to say his brother? We're coming to add in a detail here. Let's say he's not just a kayan, but he's a kayan gadol, and he's also a nazir. So for sure he shouldn't become tummy, but only le'echav v'hu nazir, and he's a nazir. Le'echav v'hu to his brother he doesn't become tummy. Hava metamel le'meis mitzvah, but he does become tummy to a meis mitzvah. So now it's extending it even further. Why? What does it mean to his sister? You shouldn't become tamei. We add in another detail here. Let's say he was actually going to slaughter his korban pesach, and to circumcise his son. He hears that a relative passed away. Maybe he should not become tamei. Maybe he should become tamei because of his close relative. Amrit layitama. We say to his sister, he should not become tamei. Maybe if he has all these three reasons not to become tamei, he's a kain gadol, he's going to shech the pesach, he's a nazir. Maybe he shouldn't become tamei to someone that's laying there on the floor that no one's taking care of the burial. But he does become tamei to a meis mitzvah. What we find here is that don't tell me that the reason why he doesn't become tamei is because it's Rabbi Shmuel's opinion. It's not. It's actually Rabbi Akiva's opinion. Rabbi Akiva's the one that's saying this. And so therefore, what's the difference between the two brises? The one brisa says that he does the korban pesach and he doesn't become tamei. The other brisa says that we're metameh him and he doesn't do the korban pesach. The difference is when the person passed away. If he passed away before Chatzais, then the laws of the mourning take over. If he passed away after Chatzais, then he was already obligated to bring the korban pesach. So that's that takes precedence.
So why did he bring here a bris? Because you can still do a bris if it's tummy, no?
We're saying that if he doesn't have a bris, he won't be able to do the korban pesach.
But that's his son, though.
I hear what you're saying. Let me see.
So that a person who doesn't circumcise his son can.
Oh, the father also can. The father also can. Yeah, that could be. The father also can. That answers the question.
Good question, Yitzhak.
Good question, Eli.
Yeah, if a person has a son,
Soon you're going to sit next to Rabbi Pinchas, moving him
No,
down
that's
and
your
you're going
seat.
up.
No one's taking your seat.
Huh?
No one's taking your seat. That's your seat.
You want to be here.
Your seat.
Nice. Pinchas.
okay.
Tell me-
But either way,
Give
he
me
can't.
some-
He can't
Yitzhak,
do a
give me
bris
some
if he's
water,
coming.
water.
Oh, yes, sir.
No, he can. He can.
So the father being tummy, the son can't have a.
I
have
think what it
Korban
means
Pesach?
to say is that the Mila, that the Mila is just as severe as the Korban Pesach. So, what should that over here it would be? What should he do first? Because he has an obligation to circumcise his son. Should he take care of the circumcision, or should he take care of the burial? So
Burial because
we
before,
say
no?
not by a relative, by a mace mitzvah, yes.
Yes.
So we say that the circumcision comes first. It's just as severe as a Korban Pesach. And that comes first. Why does it come first? So we said because the obligation was there already, it was after Chatzos. The Rava is going to give a different answer for the contradiction in the opinion of Reb Shimon. One says that an Einin does bring a Korban Pesach, and one source says, according to Reb Shimon, that an Einin does not. Rav Amar Yidi Vidi Ache Chatzos. Both of them are talking about where the relative died after Chatzos. And now we have two sources. One says that he doesn't bring a Korban Pesach, and one says that he does. We had the Mishnah says that he's Toivel Veichel Piskei L'Erev. So how would we explain this? The contradictory sources. It says V'lei Kasha. Kan Kaidim Sheshachtu V'Zarko Olav, Kan Lacha Sheshachtu V'Zarko Olav. We're not talking about bringing the Korban Pesach.
How can you take the blood before you shech them? You have to shech the blood and then you.
Right. We're talking about. We're not talking about taking the blood before you shech. We're talking about if you. When does it say you don't bring a Korban Pesach? We're talking about when the relative died before the Korban Pesach was brought. When do we say that when do we say that he does bring the Korban Pesach and he eats it? That's when the relative died after the Korban Pesach was brought, and that evening he's allowed to eat what was brought already. Amalei Ravada bar Masna l'Rava, Acha sheshachta v'zarku esdamai ma'idahava hava. Why do you have to say that the Korban Pesach was brought, the relative dies? You have to say that he then eats it that evening. What happened already. Most opinions hold, and this is what the question is based on, most opinions hold that there's the obligation is to bring the Korban Pesach. The obligation is not to eat the Korban Pesach. So why are you saying that he's an Einin and now he's going to eat the Korban Pesach that evening? Even if Aninus is derabanan, even if it's because the evening after it's only a derabanan, but it shouldn't push off the mitzvah of Korban Pesach. That real strong obligation is only on to bring the Korban Pesach, not to eat the Korban Pesach. Amalei Ravina responds, Achilas psachim ma'akva midraba baravuna. No, eating the Korban Pesach affects the validity of the Korban Pesach, and this is according to Rabba Baravuna. Amalei. So Rava responds to Ravada, Tzayas mai dekamelach rabach. You have to listen to what your teacher just told you, which is Ravina. Now, it's interesting because Ravada bar Masna was talking to Rava. Ravina interjected. And I would assume that that Rav Ada Bar Masna was a student of Rava. But he responds, listen to what your teacher says. What do we know about this? I don't know. Okay. What does it mean, my Rabba Bar Rav Huna? What did Rabba Bar Rav Huna say regarding eating the Korban Pesach? The Tanya was taught in a Brais. Okay, you have to follow this carefully. This is slightly complex. Yom Shmua ki yom kvura lemitzvah shiva u'shleishim. If a person hears that a relative passed away, now it was within 30 days, so he has to sit shiva, and he also has to keep the shleishim. So when does the shiva start? When he hears about it. It's as if that was the day of the burial. Just like after the burial, the shiva starts. So too, if he hears that a relative passed away, in another city, a close relative passed away, he has to start sitting shiva from them. Okay, now, ulachilas psachim kien likarat samas. What about eating the Korban Pesach, and he hears that a relative passed away? He says, that is not like the day of the burial. That's like the day of when bones are collected and moved. Let's say, for whatever reason, they have to move the body, the aron. I don't know, whatever's happening. So they're going to move it. So they have to collect the bones. So that day that they collect the bones is like a day of mourning for him. So, but it's only that day. It's not at night. So when it comes to eating the Korban Pesach, if a person hears that a relative passed away, that's not considered like a day of burial. That's considered like a day that the bones were collected, which are only forbidden for him that day, but the evening he would be allowed to eat it. Then the Brisa continues, Echad Zevachim, whether it's this one or this one, Toivel Veichel Kachem La'erev. He goes to the mikveh and he eats sacrifices that evening. Now, there's a big problem here. As the Gemara goes on, it says whether it's this one or whether it's that one, it's contradicting what it just said. Hagufa kasha. Amrit yem shmua kiyem kvur lemitzvah shivu shleishim. You just said that the day that he hears that a relative passed away is like the day of the burial. When it comes to the mitzvah of shiva, the 7 days of mourning, or the 30 days. However, alachilas psachim kein likarat samas. But when it comes to eating the Korban Pesach, it's not like the day of the burial. It's like likarat samas. It's like the day of collecting the bones, which means that evening it's allowed. Mechlal, the yom kvur afil erev nami lo yachal, which means that the day of the burial you're not allowed to eat it. You're not allowed to eat a Korban Pesach that night if the relative was buried that day. But then the Brisa goes on and says, it says that he eats, whether it's the day of the burial or whether it's the day of collecting of the bones, he does eat the kachim that night.
Here explains something very interesting. What they used to do in the time, they used to dig in a moisture place so the body will be dissolved very fast, and then after that they come and pick up the bones and bury them in another locations. So it means they have two barriers or two times.
They do that regularly, or it happens to be they did that?
Regularly, what I understand from here. הנה ליקוט העצמות הוא שיתעכל הבשר מהר, ולאחר שנתעכל היו מלקטים את העצמות וקוברים אותו במקום נכבד בארון. באותו יום נקרא יום ליקוט, ואותו יום is the day that they... It was like two burials kind of. It's very interesting.
Who's writing that? Which source is this?
Is the rabbinical source. It's very interesting. What? What are you saying? Say it loud.
That's what it says.
No, that's just used to do it. It's like they want to have any evidence this is something not nice.
I'm supposed to say something negative on it.
Yeah, no. It's very interesting. What happened if he was a tzaddik and his body was not dissolving? Thank you. We put it on record, Yitzchak. question
I
is,
see. Very good.
the question is like this.
Thank you.
If the place that you are, the body dissolved, is considered that the neshama is staying over there, or when you take the body and the bones, it's
If you move the body, it's not it's not considered a grave anymore.
yeah.
It's moved out. Yes, if they take everything away. So, what are we seeing here? That we have a contradiction. One place says that the day of the burial you're allowed to eat that evening, and one place says the day of the burial you're not allowed to eat that evening. In the same brisa it says it. It says it's not considered like the day of the burial, it's considered like the day that the bones were collected. So Rav Chizda Tanai here. Rav Chizda says that it's a machlekes tanaim, and the brisa has both opinions put one like right next to each other, and it doesn't separate it, so it looks like it's one opinion, but really it's two separate opinions. The Gemara later is going to discuss who the tanaim are. However, Rabba Bar Rav Huna, in order to resolve this contradiction in the brisa, he says, "Loi kasha." It depends when he heard that the person passed away. Did he hear before Shkia? And the same would apply if the bones were collected before Shkia. And the same would apply if the burial took place before Shkia. So in all of those cases, he does not eat he would eat. Why? In all of those cases, he would eat the Korban Pesach because that would be considered the night after. The night after is a derabanan. However, kan la'achar shkia sachama. However, if it's after shkia sachama that all of these things happen, so that's considered the avelos or the aninos midaraisa because that's the actual day that it took place. It's not the night after. The only problem is if it's after dark, when he hears that his relative passed away, or if the burial was after dark, if the burial was after dark, then he doesn't eat the Korban Pesach. If he hears that his relative passed away after dark, then that's considered like the bones were collected after dark, and he would eat the Korban Pesach. The question is, why do we have to allow him to eat the Korban Pesach? The Korban Pesach was brought already. He already did the mitzvah. The Gemara asks, what already happened. From this we see that here's the mitzvah is to eat it as well. That's Rabba Bar Rav Huna. That's where he says, this is where we see the opinion that there's a mitzvah to eat it. Now we have Rabba Bar Rav Huna that says there's a mitzvah to eat it. So now we can go back and we can explain the opinion of Reb Shimon. When does Reb Shimon say that you don't bring the korban, that you eat the Korban Pesach, that's after the Korban Pesach was shechted, the relative passed away. So then you go ahead and you eat it. But if it was before the Korban Pesach was shechted, then you don't go ahead and shecht it. So the brisa that said that only when he's shlamim, only when he's at peace, that's when he brings the Korban Pesach, that's applicable even if the relative died after Chatzos and he already had an obligation to bring the Korban Pesach. Nevertheless, he's a nain and he doesn't bring the Korban Pesach. In this that he said that he does go to the mikveh and he eats the Korban Pesach, that's if the Korban Pesach was shechted already. Okay. Rav Ashi Amar. Rav Ashi says, Rav Ashi is going to answer the question, the contradiction in the brisa. The brisa said that when he hears that a relative passed away, he brings the Korban Pesach that evening, not like it's the day of the burial. And then the brisa continues and says, but whether it's the day of the burial or whether not, he eats the karbanos, which is a contradiction. So it says, Hachi Kamar, Echad Yom Hashmua, whether it's the day that he heard. Echad Yom Likut, Tayvel Vaychel B'Kachim L'Erev. What Rav Ashi does is he takes echad zeh v'echad zeh and he says it's not talking about the day of the burial. Whether this or whether that is talking about whether it's when he heard that a relative passed away or whether it's the day of the collecting of the bones. He eats kachim that evening. But the day of the burial, no. The Gemara asks, V'hada Rav Ashi badusi. Rav Ashi is incorrect. Michti. Let's take a look. Alakai. This is what it's talking about. Zevazemi boilei. If it wants to say that it's talking about the day of the collecting of the bones, or when he hears that a relative passed away, then it doesn't have to say whether this and whether that. That's what it's talking about. He says this. Whether this, whether that means whether it's the first case or whether it's the next case, but not in the case of the comparison. It should have just said zevazeh, this and this, not whether this and whether that else. Shmamina badusi. Rather, Rav Ashi is incorrect. Word badusa could mean badusi. It means incorrect, but some have it barusa, which means you have to take it out of the Gemara. The Rebbe's father, in one of his letters, he writes about every word of the Gemara was told to Moshe from Hashem. His example is, he says, even Hadar Rav Ashi Bedusihi, even these words where the Gemara itself says that it's a mistake, even that was told to Moshe. This is also part of the Torah. Okay, Umay Tanai. Who are the Tanoim? We had a statement from Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda was resolving the contradiction in the Brisa regarding if the day of burial, if he eats the Korban Pesach that night. Rav Chisda said it's a Machlekes Tanoim. The Tanya, it's taught in the Brisa. Ad Masai Mesainin Alav. Until when is the Aninas? Kol Hayom. Says the first opinion is the Aninas is the entire day. Rebbe says Kolzman Shlei Nikvar, as long as he wasn't buried. That's as long as Aninas goes on. And it sounds like after he's buried, then Aninas stops. But Mayaskinan, what are we talking about? If the burial is the day of the death, is there an opinion that holds that on the day of the death, the following night doesn't have Aninos, at least midirabanan? Everyone holds that at least rabbinically, the first day of the death, even if the burial took place that day, but everyone holds that night he's still a Nainen, at least rabbinically. Visul, and also it sounded like Rebbe said